Jackie, that's all.
So today is Fat Tuesday, right?
That's right. Yes.
Mardi Gras, which means, our pattern is supposed to be that we eat every shred of fat and sugar in our houses, right? I think that's the, does anybody know that story?
No.
This is what Mardi Gras is all about, and that's what Fat Tuesday is all about. It's the idea of getting out all the things that might be, a little too delicious for the austere journey of Lent. So that's what you should do, is when you get done with class, you should go eat all the fat and sugar out of your house and get yourselves ready. Okay.
It might take us all night, though.
Okay. Wake up tomorrow with a bad belly, and then you go to Ash Wednesday service. But seriously, that was the idea from long ago. The idea was to prepare yourself the day before Ash Wednesday for the journey of the desert journey of Lent. And this year, I've been really thinking a lot about Lent and the seasons in the church. You know what I was thinking about? Tell me what you think of this idea. I've been thinking about how when we go from the season of Advent, anticipating the joy of the incarnation of Christ, and then we go through Christmas and the joy of God's love coming into this world to love us so much. And then we move into the celebration of that major revelation where we go from Jesus's birth as that innocent baby in to show us how much God wants to be with us, to then all of these amazing revelations of Jesus's presence, God's love present and wanting to be with us and loving us through all of Epiphany, till we get to Transfiguration Sunday, where we have the mega transformation of Jesus coming to show us the union of love and law and prophet together. All of that comes together. And then, so we get this whole long time of love, God's love coming to us. And then we go into Lent. And what's Lent? Lent is the time when we reflect on how it is that we can't take in all of God's love, and how we turn away and how we stray. And we make special efforts to try to come back close to that love that wants to be with us. And I was thinking that that's a way cool way to talk about the rhythm of the church. How do you like it? It feels good to go into Lent that way. I think it feels good to go into Lent saying, oh yes, please let me see where in my soul I'm not trusting that amazing love that you've already showed me all the way through Advent and Christmas and Epiphany. Help me, let me see more of it. Let me turn and embrace more of it, because I want that joy. I like that way of going into Lent. And I want to say that I think that us going into Lent from the perspective of doing the Enneagram, that if we think of the Enneagram and learning about all the different personalities and all the facets, and we learn about the essence of who we are versus the shell of who we become to protect ourselves. As we open up and we understand the shell and we understand how we've behaved within the shell because we're afraid our essence is going to get crushed and we can't trust it. We don't even know it, maybe because of the way we've walked in the world. That as we become closer and closer understanding the shell, we can crack the shell open so we can see the beauty of the essence. And that's what we can do this Lent, is if we listen to each one of the personalities, we'll find something in every personality type, not just discover our own, but we'll find something in every single personality type that we can see about the way we conduct ourselves. And as we look at that, we can take hints from it and find ways to let those things go, so we can be more present and trusting in love. So this day, while we look at personality 3, I wanted to share that idea with you, because we're going to shift into Lent now, and we can take that with us for the next number of weeks as we continue to consider the personalities and we discover exactly what personality we use to express ourselves the most, and also look at how maybe we can see patterns in how we've lived from the story of that personality that we can let go of to be more free. So before I read my little intro thing I want to read for you this evening, I was wondering, has anybody had any experience of observation at this point where you went, oh, I didn't realize that's how I was, or I sort of knew that was how I was, but now I really see it. And in personality 1 or 2, have you discovered anything yet where you've seen anything? Anybody want to share anything? You good? So, see me turning. I'm looking at you. Anybody want to talk?
Yeah. Oh, it was, I guess I'm a two, and it was wonderful having, Larry's 4 friends were here, and they did all of one of the men did all the cooking, and one of the women was a real clean, she couldn't stand not cleaning up. My kitchen's cleaner than it's ever been. And for me, it was so hard not to help out. They were using my kitchen, they were in the middle of the house. They stayed, in under plate. But it was sort of like, I'm just sitting on the sofa, and I just had to hold myself back from jumping in and trying to help. And I go, oh, okay, I can do this.
That's the idea. I love that, Rosemary, that you said that, because that's exactly the idea. The little twinkle, where you're in the moment, in the situation, you go, oh yeah,
there I am.
There I am. There's that one. I want to say that what I recognized this week, which was really powerful for me, was I'm definitely an 8. I'm either an 8 with a 7 wing or a 7 with an 8 wing, but that's really my personality. But I, all my life, have gone to what I want to call the dark side of the 2. And this is it. See, the 2s are such good helpers, and they love to help people. And there's like 1,000 reasons why they do it. But one of the things that can happen with a 2 is because they're so full with love and so energetic that they can think that they don't need God, but that they need to serve God because God needs them.
Right.
So that's a trap, because we always need God, and God uses us to serve in the world, but God doesn't need us to serve God. God can make it work all by God's self. But the point being is that what I recognized this last week, and it was a huge like layered recognition for me, was that, and I listened to it in Diane telling me about how I work, and as my senior warden, she's really great. And the thing that I noticed was that I absolutely help all the time, to the point of forgetting about what I need. But I don't help all the time because I want people to love me. I help all the time because I think you need me to help you. I got to get it straightened out for you. So I'll help you. But not because I need you to love me, but because it's my job to assert for the situation. And I kept looking at that and saying, wow, look at how many times you've done that and you haven't let other people help, either you or in any other way, because you thought you needed to protect them and save them, so you'll do it. That was kind of bruising.
I think that goes with the territory of clergy. I think everyone in the clergy has to fight that.
I think so. And looking at the Enneagram and seeing that, and saying to myself, whoa, like almost as if movies would go in front of me and I'd see all the places where I did it. And I'm saying that to you because I think there might be times when there will be different behaviors that you see that happen with you, where it's going to sting a little. It's going to sting when you see it, and you see how deep it is. But the good thing is that in the sting comes an awareness, and in the awareness and in the sting comes a freedom. So I just wanted to share that and just tell you that while we're going through this, just notice if the Holy Spirit is showing you, because I think for us, ultimately, as trusting in Christ, what we're doing when we're studying the personality type and the personality types and discovering who we are, how we operate on the protective shell. I think our greatest gift is that we have a loving God with a loving, compassionate spirit who wants to lead us and show us to set us free so we can be more the beautiful essence that we were created to be, and we can let go of that protective outer shell. So with that being said, I just wanted to read you this piece. This is from Don Richard Rizzo's Discovering Our Personality Type, the book that he wrote. And it's a little bit of a piece, but I just want to read it and leave it with you. And then we're going to go to the type 3. I'm going to bring up the share screen for the 3. So this is what he says. Personality often hides more than it reveals, and discovering one's type actually is not the greatest accomplishment in and of itself. The real achievement lies in pressing on to learn to distinguish our inner self, our essence, and our personality. To do so, we must cultivate a spiritual practice that allows us to observe ourselves in the midst of our everyday lives. As useful as discovering our type is, it is much more significant achievement to observe it in action. Indeed, discovering our personality type presents us with the great challenge of courageously observing ourselves as we are, no matter what we find. Without the willingness to see the maneuvers of our personality from moment to moment, transformation cannot take place. Unless we learn to observe ourselves, finding our type will give us little more than another label with which we can hide from ourselves. It is in the act of seeing ourselves objectively, however, that something lets go in us. Suddenly, we find ourselves in a state of increased freedom and clarity in which we discover that at our deepest, we are not our personality. When we experience this truth, transformation becomes possible. Without trying to do anything to fix ourselves, the act of bringing awareness to the moment causes our essential self to arise and our personality to loosen its grip over us. As we become increasingly aware and liberated from our personality, our essence reveals its many facets: acceptance, love, authenticity, forgiveness, compassion, courage, joy, strength, and presence, as well as many other manifestations of the human spirit. By moving beyond merely knowing our type to the ability to see ourselves as we are, the shift from personality to essence takes place, and we discover that we can live differently. We discover we can be free. It's not easy work, but it's well worth it. So does anybody want to say anything before I bring up personality type 3? Looking at you now, looking at you. No, you look like you're all good. All right. So let's bring up that share screen and talk about the number 3, the achiever. Okay, is that clear for you?
Oh, yeah.
Good, good. All right, so this is the achiever. 3s are motivated by the need to be productive, achieve success, and avoid failure. Does somebody want to read our best and worst lists? Anybody in the mood to read so we don't just hear my voice yammering on forever? Hang on, I gotta bring you out here a little bit. I gotta do this. Hold on, one sec. I gotta open.
Read it.
All right, Roger, would you please do that for me? That'd be great.
Okay, 3s at their best are optimistic, confident, industrious, efficient, self-propelled, energetic, and practical. Threes at their worst are deceptive, narcissistic, pretentious, vain, superficial, vindictive, and overly competitive.
Okay, anybody notice any of those traits in themselves?
Can notice them all at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. All righty then. Anybody else?
I think optimistic for me. I always think of things are going to work out well, you know.
Okay. All right. So how to get along with me if I'm a 3? Leave me alone when I'm doing my work. Give me honest but not unduly critical or judgmental feedback. Help me keep my environment harmonious and peaceful. Don't burden me with negative emotions. Tell me you like being around me. Tell me when you're proud of me or my accomplishments. How do any of those fit you? Does anyone feel like, oh yeah, I can feel a lot of that in me, or I feel a little of that in me? How's that working for everybody? When 3s were children, the unconscious message that 3s got was it's not okay to have your own feelings and identity. You see, one thing that's really important to know about 3s is 3s are usually very, very productive. And actually, even many 3s, you can say they're some of the most attractive people, that, you know, just physically attractive and athletic, and those the things in our culture that we kind of pick as what we believe are, you know, kind of the shining qualities. So imagine you probably were either you were yourself or you knew other children who were thought of as the shining stars of the you know, of the day. Lots of times the shining stars are the 3s, and lots of times when they get the message, it's not okay to have your own feelings and identity. It's because they get the message as children that when they do something good, their mom and dad are proud of them. And so they get to the point where they develop this idea of the best way for them, that the way for them to succeed is to have the image of that they did something good, that they should be, that somebody will be proud of them for this good thing that they could do. So their basic childhood message that's lost for them is that they're loved for themselves. Did you ever feel like, and maybe it's true or not, but have you ever had the experience where it felt like when you were a child that there was this message that if you did good and you won, you got the A in school, or you won the spelling bee, or you played great on football, or anything like that? Did you ever get the message of the feeling like that's what made you, you know, worthwhile? That me being a good achiever made me, that's me. So you weren't loved for just being your cute little self traveling around the world. You were loved for what you did really, really well and what you succeeded at. That's the dilemma that 3s live with. And their basic fear actually is being worthless or without inherent value. And their basic desire is to be valuable. So this idea of wanting to be left alone when they work, that's because they got to work and succeed, right? And they want input, but they don't want you to be too critical of judgment, because then that failure pain comes in. And they need harmonious and peaceful environment because their effort is so hard to try to succeed all the time. So have you ever known anybody like that?
Or isn't some of us, isn't everybody like that? I mean,
Everybody's got that, but picture it as the exaggerated tendency. We all have that situation, but every time we're talking about a personality type, we're talking like they lean hard on it. Like we all have it. And if we're not a 3, we don't lean on that. Like my husband was a 3. I'll tell you a quick story. So here's how the story went. My husband was like a maximum 3. And so until we did the Enneagram, I didn't understand this situation, but here's how it went. So after we got married, Bill would do this thing with me where he would do something like he'd go out and he'd trim the bushes in the front of the house. And I would come home and he would say to me, you know, I'd been busy all day working and doing my priestly thing. And I would come home and he would say to me, well, did you notice anything? And I want to tell you, every time I heard that, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I noticed. I'm like, how am I going to do this? What am I going to say? And I used to get really aggravated because I'm an 8 and an 8's like, will you knock it off? You don't need all the praise. Everybody's working here. You know, it's not a big deal. I mean, that would be an 8. So my kind of response to poor Bill would be that he'd be like, did you notice? And I'd be like, what? So then finally, we did the Enneagram together and I found out how much he needed me to praise his accomplishments, to acknowledge them. That was his way of showing me he loved me. He didn't show me he loved me by buying me flowers or telling me something sweet. He did it by succeeding. That's how Bill showed me he loved me. So what finally happened was I finally figured out after the Enneagram, and we were together for years, and this was like a real bone of contention. And so finally, what I did was I finally figured out what it was. And so then when I would come home and he'd say, did you notice? I'd beat him to the punch before we got to the did you notice? And I'd say, hey, got anything you want to show me? I tell you, it did wonders for our marriage. But he was a pure 3, and success, showing love through success was really important to him. And 3s are like a person who leans on that successful side. That's what they lean on, and it can get them in trouble as well as do really good things. So in their relationships at their best, they value and accept their partners. They are playful, giving, responsible, and well regarded by others in the community. That's a 3. That's a very healthy, positive 3 is very, very much like that. 3s at their worst in a relationship are preoccupied with work and projects. They are self-absorbed, defensive, impatient, dishonest, and controlling. And that is very true of a wounded 3. Very true of a wounded 3, all those things, because they're so anxious to succeed and so want to put the best image forward. That's what happens when it goes haywire. What I like about being a 3, being optimistic, friendly, and upbeat, providing well for my family, being able to recover quickly from setbacks and to charge ahead to the next challenge, staying informed, knowing what's going on, being competent and able to get things to work efficiently, being able to motivate people. Does that ring for anybody?
Yeah, I think the treasurer you have might be sort of like that.
This is a good point. That's what Rosemary's saying is she's showing us she's observing that sense in her daughter. She sees that personality style in her daughter. So when I say if any of you experience this, I mean that idea. Do you know anybody like that? If you're not like that, have you ever experienced anybody like that?
Yeah.
There are a lot of 3s in the crowds. Let me tell you, there's a lot of 3s out there in the crowds.
Yeah. And someone told me once that they thought Clinton was a 3 in a class I was taking. They said, well, Clinton must be a 3. President Clinton, yeah. But
yeah, you could see that. I think you could really see that in him. How I mean, there's a whole lot of challenges to being president of the United States, but for sure in his desire for an image, for a successful image to be presented, that desire. So what's hard about being a 3? Having to put up with inefficiency and incompetence, the fear of not being seen as successful, comparing myself to people who do things better, struggling to hang on to my success, putting on facades in order to impress people, always being on, it's exhausting. So if we know somebody like this, may not be us, but this is our way of knowing how to give somebody compassion. I want to encourage that when we're listening to different styles and they're not ours, if we know someone like that, we can start to pay attention so we can be compassionate with them. Typical thoughts of a 3. I certainly hope I made a good impression. Why doesn't everyone work as hard as I do? That guy did a good job, but I could do it better. I wish I hadn't taken taken on those extra 10 projects.
Yeah, I have problems with my daughter. who's doing it. She does take on a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yup. And she does not suffer long conversations that don't get to the point.
I know. But she, but her father, she was always a princess, and her father told her she could do anything she ever wanted to do. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and she's a really accomplished person, and you can see how for her the image of success is really important. Makes dad proud, made daddy proud. If she could do anything,
what the
she
thing
wanted
is,
to, then daddy
no
would
matter
be
what
proud of
she
me.
did, it made him proud. So
I know, but you see how that feeds in?
yeah, right.
See how that feeds in? It's not that we don't know as parents what we're saying or how it impacts our kids.
No.
We don't know how our parents don't know how they impacted us. That's all part of the game. 3s work hard to receive appreciation for their accomplishments. Are well liked by other children and by adults, are among the most capable and responsible children in their class or school, and are active in school government and clubs, or are quite busy working on their own projects. See how hard it is for a 3? Think of that personality, how hard that pressure is on, you're so good. We're always going to be leaning on you because you're good at this and that and the other thing. 3s as parents are consistent, dependable, and loyal. Struggle between wanting to spend time with their children and wanting to get more work done.
Yeah.
Expect their children to be responsible and organized. Do you want to go over careers, or shall we skip careers? What do you think?
My comment is that some of this I can see in my sister, who was the oldest, and some of these characteristics I think apply to firstborn children.
I think the environment of the firstborn child can definitely help nurture a 3. Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's a good observation. Thank you, Margie. 3s are hardworking, goal-oriented, organized, and decisive. They are frequently in management or leadership positions. I think we leave it right there. We know that, right?
Mhm.
So, and free time, if there's any for a 3. Many 3s enjoy socializing or doing volunteer work for charities and political campaigns. You know who I think is a 3, might be a 3 who is not with us and won't be with us for a few weeks because he's on a project? Paul Blasick.
Yeah.
Very much a
Yeah.
achiever. So he wanted me to give you his love and tell you for the next couple of weeks he's working on a project with his son and he will not be at our classes. So comments about 3s. She writes the clearest and most concise report in my company and inspires me with her work habits, enthusiasm, and sunny disposition. He is charming and has a way of making everyone feel special and important. My friend is self-assured and confident, has a lot of drive, and does more in a day than most people can do in a week. She's the most focused and purposeful person I know. She has made such great improvements in our community, and I hope she runs for president. You know who else I think is a 3 that I would guess, and we should never guess anybody's personality type because only they know. But if any of you know Kimberly Clark from the Covenant Soup Kitchen,
Yeah.
this description is so strong of the way she is and how she presents herself. Your personality may blend into or be influenced by the types on either side of you. A strong wing can make a big difference in your personality. 3s are more with a more developed 2 wing tend to be warmer, more encouraging, sociable, popular, and seductive. 3s with a more developed 4 wing tend to be more introspective, sensitive, artistic, imaginative, and pretentious. All that stuff, seductive, pretentious, that's all that effort of the personality to make themselves appear successful in relationship to the world. Moving around the Enneagram, following the lines of the diagram, the 3 moves towards 6 in one direction and toward 9 in the other. 3s move toward the positive side of 6 when they feel secure. They can also consciously cultivate the positive qualities, those positive qualities. 3s move towards the negative side of the 9 when in stress. They can consciously try to avoid these negative traits. You can read the chapters on those. When 3s move towards the positive side of 6, they spend more time with and become more committed to family and friends, value what's best for the group, get more in touch with their feelings, become more vulnerable. When they move towards the negative side of 6, they become dependent and fear being rejected, become more anxious and nervous, and have trouble making decisions. When 3s moves towards the negative side of 9, they procrastinate and become indecisive, become apathetic, neglect themselves, and possibly numb out with even more work, drugs, food, alcohol, or excessive sleep. Run in circles working or become less productive, passively aggressively punish people who make them look at their shortcomings. Does any of this sound, can you see any of this stuff in the moments of your lives or the moments of somebody else's life? What do you think, Roger? I notice you're nodding your head a lot in this one. Does this sound, is this personality type 3, is it hitting home for you in a strong way today?
In some ways it is, yeah. In the negative side of the 9, which came out to be my dominant one when I did the personality, I can definitely see where, and in a lot of this, it's, and you mentioned earlier, I can see more of the negative than I can the positive for sure. But yeah, I can definitely become neglectful of myself, and I can start running in circles and get nothing done at times is a sure thing that I see in myself.
So what's really good about that is that when we can see those parts of us, and we can see that happening, if we can see it in the moment, that's when we can breathe in and let it go and become free. Because what happens is everything that how our personality works is by what we're telling ourselves in our head, right? That's how we respond to the world, by the little stories that are going on in our head. So if we hear a story in our head and we go, wait a minute, let me slow down here. This story might not be the best story for me to think right now. This might not be it. That means you're letting go of the personality conversation to come down to the essence, to say, okay, what's really happening? What do I really need? What really needs to go on in this circumstance? So that's what's really good about knowing the negative side, because you begin to notice when you're telling yourself the story that you can let go of. So when 3s move, now so imagine the first story is, I've got to succeed. I've got to get it done. I got to get it right. I can't let myself fail. And now we come to the side that when the 3s move towards the positive side of the 9, they slow down. They relax and feel more peaceful. They become more receptive, and they start to see life from a broader point of view. It all just happens in a moment, in a breath, when we start thinking differently about what we see ourselves doing. Now let's look at some of the practical suggestions and exercises for the 3 that can help you move away from the stories on the shell that you're fighting for your life for, so to speak, and letting yourself open up to just relax and express the essence of the self. I mean, the thing is that the greatest gift of the 3 actually is truthfulness and honesty. When they're so good at seeing things, and when they can let go of having to keep that picture up of what's successful, the reason they're successful is because they can see the way to go, right? So that means that their best quality is their ability to be truthful and honest about what's going on, instead of worrying about protecting themselves and trying to succeed from the inner side. So what they need to do is Since the stress of overworking can lead to physical and emotional problems, schedule time every day to rest and practice meditation or stress reduction techniques, including massages, steam baths, or saunas. Now, we all need that kind of thing, but when it comes to being a doer like a 3, the reason that things like massages or steam baths or saunas are really good is because you're able to break farther out because you're letting something else affect you. You know what I mean? You're not yourself doing. So if you go take a massage, somebody is slowing you down. You're not just trying to do it yourself. And 3s are so hard charging. Like imagine, one of the best gifts you could give Liz for Christmas or her birthday would be a massage. You're muted, Rosemary. You're muted, Rosemary.
I'm trying to do that. Okay. Yeah, I have done that. Yeah.
And I bet she's really liked it.
Yes, she does. And the other, the dog.
Yep.
A dog's work, but it's also, relax. But Liz does relax. I mean, she knows she has to.
Well, but that's the point of maturity and growth and personality style.
Right. And she's the one, she's the one I'd go to. She always knows exactly what to do for me, if I'm stressed out, she knows exactly what to say. She's, she just is so, she's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because she knows it, and she can handle. It's just amazing the logistics and things she can handle. It's just amazing. So.
Yep. That's the thing of a 3. That's the quality. Those are the kind of qualities that a 3 have. That's a really great gift. It's good for that we have varying qualities and gifts. It's very good to have 3s as part of our lives.
Right. Because
it's very good to have everybody as part of our lives, but you're noticing the gifts that are important. Make time to do some of the activities you value aside from work, because 3s can get really caught up in only being about work. Reduce stress by appreciating and accepting your present level of success. In other words, don't worry about needing to make more. Try to become more aware of your real desires and preferences. You see, because a lot of times 3s, it's not just their own success that they're concerned about. They're concerned about their success of the voluntary organization. They're concerned about the success of everybody else's life. It's not just their success. They're worried about everybody's success. So they need to take the time to be aware of their own desires and preferences, and take a vacation and leave all your work at home. Work. Realize others are probably not as efficient as you are. Maybe people do not have your energy or ability to focus. Be aware of the negative impact that forging ahead on your own can have on others. Have other work available to do while you wait. Make a special effort to show appreciation and acknowledge others' contributions. Be aware of being overly hasty in making decisions. Take time to factor in all sides, including the human element. See, threes can cut through it all. And so they're going to make decisions, and they're going to make them like this. And they sometimes forget that, okay, their decision is probably a really good decision, but somebody else could give you a decision and it would make a little difference in what you do. And their decision is just as good as yours. Their idea is just as good. But threes are so efficient and want so much success, sometimes they can make the mistake of, they got the answer for the group and there we go.
Mm-hmm.
When they need to say, does anybody else have an idea? And slow down a little bit. Explore work that satisfies your inner self. Threes sometimes choose careers that don't nurture their deeper needs, because they can have because they have all of this ability and talent, can have any career they want. A lot of times. But a lot of times what they'll do for success is they'll take a career that maybe has a lot of financial reward to it, but they really don't love what they're doing, but they love the success of the financial reward, and then they feel very empty. Relationships. When writing your weekly schedule, include time for hanging out with friends and family. When a loved one comes to you with a problem, listen without giving advice unless it is asked for. He or she may be in need of a sympathetic ear. Do you ever know anybody like that? Do you go and ask them, you go and talk to them about a need, and they're immediately giving you the answer to what should happen?
I don't want to start a controversy, but I think the way we were raised, men were expected to give those answers.
I agree. I was going to say that too. And it was like, well, does that sound sexist?
No, you know what's really interesting when you say that? Think about it. Last week we did a 2. Who in culture was raised to be a 2? Women. It's just the way it is. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. And 3, success oriented is absolutely the pressure and the focus of raising little boys. Not so much. I mean, I don't think so much it's still there, but not as much. But when we were younger, men, boys were raised to be successful, which is what? A 3. You're right, Margie. I think it's important for us to say those things out loud, because we, again, moment to moment, we cannot learn how to love and respect and nurture each other and have compassion for each other if we don't understand the boxes that our culture actually forced us into, male or female. So
One thing that troubles me for a long time, ever since I found this out, was that any kind of medical research was conducted on men, not women.
Yep, that's right. Hey, what do you think? You think Putin might be a 3? How about Donald Trump? You think Donald Trump might be a 3?
He's got the narcissism.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at those 2 players on the scene, what's more important to them than their image and their success? Anything?
Nothing.
I just want you to see that's what a really unhealthy 3 has going on. That's an unhealthy 3, which maybe in our prayers allows us to pray with the energy that we're drawing forward in another way for healing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're making decisions for the world in such a way that the most important thing to you is for you and your country to succeed, however you think that is, it surely limits conversation, doesn't it?
In each case, they're not concerned about the country, they're concerned about their individual selves.
That's right. And you have to see that that's a really unhealthy 3, and that how they
And
see things-
dangerous.
Well, obviously, yes, right? And you can see within that unhealthy 3, it's not concerned for their country, but it's a concern for the success of their country and how that reflects on them. So we'll invade the Ukraine and not listen to anybody for success.
Or maybe in Trump's case, inspire the January 6th storming of the Capitol.
This is the problem with the unhealthy 3. It inspires and moves this kind of thing, and it can't hear. So, but if we know that and we can see that I think also gives us a genuine way to pray with compassion for the situation. Because if you see that and you see this going on, you can also say to yourself, you might keep saying to yourself, why can't they change? Why can't they? And you can say to yourself, well, you know what? Let me see. What's about me and my personality style that doesn't change, that causes problems? I might have a couple things. So how do we pray to God for healing for the lies that their minds keep whispering to them? Remember to express appreciation for your partner. Some 3s think they are the more important one in the couple because they accomplish so much. I want you to know, Bill always thought that about me. I used to always be yelling at him. So what if I make a small priest salary? I'm still very accomplished, Bill. Come on. He used to come home. Bill would get raises that were the size of my salary. He would come home and he would say, Jack, I just got this raise. What do you think? And I would always say, I'm so proud of you, Bill. Shut up. But then I would say the last best thing that we always say after all of that little, it was always the same thing that happened every time he got a raise and the way it went. But then then he would always end it with this. He'd always go, Jack, you go help everybody and I'll make the money. I loved that conversation always ended that way. So do volunteer work where you give to others purely for the sake of giving. Search for the grain of truth in people's criticism of you. Try to stick to who you really are. 3, sometimes try to win people over by changing colors like a chameleon, which backfires when relationships deepen. Notice undesirable traits about yourself. For instance, I do not pay attention to my partner when she needs to talk, but I expect her to give her full attention when I talk. Yeah. For parents, be aware of your high expectations. Excess pressure on your children will create emotional problems for them. Feelings. Become aware of the difference between your real feelings and your feelings put on because they seem appropriate for the occasion. How many people here ever behave the way they think that's appropriate for occasion versus the way that they feel? Because I want to say culturally, especially when we were growing up, the culture convinced families in general, whoever you were, that the most important thing was an image of success, right? I mean, if you look at Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, all those shows, what are those shows all about? They're all about putting on an image of success, right? So when you see that enculturated, you can understand that you have a lot of 3 in you, especially our generation. We have a lot of 3 in us. And the boomerang effect of that cultural revolution were shows like Roseanne. You see what I'm saying? Or All in the Family. Those shows were the like exact polar opposite, where it was like, we don't care what anybody thinks. That doesn't matter. That's not the image of success. We're just going to be our real selves. Which
that's why women of my generation, when I was about in the late 60s and 70s, that's why we had assertiveness training and women of vision and leadership training and how to have a voice and and
right.
And hopefully then, hopefully that then went. I hope that helped Liz to know that, that some of us older were trying to pave the way to say, wait, look at us too, and we're going to use our own names.
Right. And I mean, you can see it in our whole culture. You can see in whole culture personality styles.
Yeah,
So
I was like June Cleaver, as Larry said, we were raised like beaver. And I go,
right.
wait a minute.
Right. I see that. Or we can even look at movements. Like, let's look at Black Lives Matters for a minute and consider the fact that success for us in our country is to push all that we don't think is exactly acceptable aside. And that the part of the problem is that what does success look like for America? And what has happened to us is that we're now in generations, and this is actually painful but good, we're in generations where we recognize that children are not necessarily going to grow up and be more successful than their parents. How many years in the United States did it feel like the message was, you're going to grow up and you're going to be more successful than your parents? So we're in this achiever transformation. We're not the biggest, brightest, shiniest kid on the block anymore. But when you're the biggest, shiniest kid on the block, you do a lot of this. You do a lot of this behavior. So imagine that we might consider that our country has an achiever personality that needs to be taken apart so that the pure essence of our country can be expressed. where we come back to what was that line? Bring us your poor, your, what's that? What was that? What is that line that I can't remember it all the way? Bring us your poor, bring us your broken, about people coming to our shore.
The Statue of Liberty. I can't remember it.
Yeah. But the idea I'm saying is that you see how if we can get there, if we pray for our country to let go of its fake image and get our country, pray for our country to come to the essence of a 3, which is honesty and compassion and mercy. That's what we want. Still achieving, still doing good in the world, but doing it without a facade. Those are the things that we can pray for our country. So things that 3s would never dream of doing: not making a list of goals for an entire week, saying nothing about their accomplishments at their high school reunion, refraining from using the seductive eye technique on the person they are interested in, not taking over the meeting when it's being run inefficiently or ineffectively, seeing a job that needs doing and not making a note of it, spending 1 week just sitting in a silent meditation retreat. Yeah, that's not happening for 3s.
Liz did that, by the way.
How'd that go for her?
Well, it was, she got a lot out of it, but I think it was hard. I think it's hard for, yeah.
It's hard for 3s. That's the idea. It's hard for achievers.
And it also, when you work, it helps.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the whole point of what we're doing here is when we can own what's hard for us and then go into it, we find that it opens us up and sets us free. We let go of our locked in idea of the world, and we're able to open ourselves up to richer personality possibilities of ourselves. So positive things to say to yourself if you're a 3, or positive things you can say to a 3 who you love. My feelings are at least as valuable as my accomplishments. Geez, you know what? Your feelings are at least as valuable as your accomplishments. Wouldn't that be a nice thing to say to somebody? The most profitable work you can do is to take time and relax to grow. Measure your worth by your own standards. Just don't worry about what other people think about what you're doing. Just let it go and do your best, and don't worry about if it's the best for everybody else. These are things that you can say to people who are achievers. If you know any little kids, does anybody know any little kids that you can see right off the bat they're achievers? Any of your grandchildren, great-grandchildren? See that in any of them? I've got my little Maxwell is like so much this, that he cries when he can't get something achieved the way he wants to. It's like, little baby, it's okay. He cries when people don't look, when he thinks people don't see how accomplished and successful he is. So, if you think about it as you're listening to these personalities, see if you see them in any of your grandchildren or your grandbabies, and your children, because you can still say words of love to help them if you see them struggling with their personality type. These are wonderful gifts that we're learning here. I'm loved for who I am, not for what I do. So that's it, my friends. That's our class for tonight. I can't believe we're done early from the direction of sharing this way. So now I'd like to ask you all a little bit about how you feel about the personality 3, since we've gone through it. We have a little bit more time we can talk. Anything anybody want to say about what they heard tonight? Margie? Yeah.
I just wanted to check on something. And at the end of that text, it said 1994, but I was thinking in terms of how we're talking about past generations and our society and culture. I was wondering when this was developed, because I had never heard of it until you brought it up.
What, the
So
Enneagram?
Yeah, so was it 1994 or sometime before that? And then this is what these authors have
This is what these
published in
authors,
1994.
this is what these authors have published. The Enneagram is quite old. It's been around for a long time and it's had many evolutions, but the Enneagram itself, at the very least, the form we have now was developed out of other forms of this, and it's been evolving since, but about 1935.
Really? Oh.
But the 1935 version we have is it's a version that, and this isn't it, it's evolved from there. But even in the 1935 evolved version, they think that the tenets and the depth of the Enneagram probably has been around for maybe even 1,000 years.
So it's been revised over the adapted or whatever over
Yeah.
time.
Yep, over and over again.
Because here we were talking about the roles of men and women, and obviously that's changed since the 50s and June Cleaver there.
But we're applying it. We're applying it to see what was happening. But this wasn't written influenced by that. In other words, the design of personality indicator to understand how we are as how we operate as human beings and how we see the world. This came, some people think that this actually came from the Sufi mystics long ago. And in some ways I can see that idea, how the tenets of it came, because, people were even if you look at scripture, people way before even in way before Jesus's time were very interested in how they saw the world, what they were doing. And some of what we have, especially in the Enneagram, where we have the circle and the numbers, when you think about that circle and numbers, imagine that as mathematics developed in the Phoenician area, and imagine that, like, when it comes to circle was a big image for them, right? Moon, sun, circle. So they began thinking very early on about this stuff. So this kind of understanding, although it's been tweaked up and tweaked up and tweaked up, the roots of it are way down there. That's why it's such a good tool to use this, because it really does bring forward the essence of human response to the world. Well, when I think of it, Margie, I think of it as, even in the image of Jesus, Jesus came to break apart the human lie that we're not valuable for who we are, that we have to do this, that, and the other thing to be valuable. We have to own this and that, whatever. Jesus came to break us of, it's not about following rules, right? We just had this in Transfiguration Sunday. It's not about rules. Although rules are important, they're important for us to live well with each other, but you're not who you are because of the way you follow rules. You are who you are because you're loved. So you can imagine that all the way for as far back as we can go, this dilemma with human beings of how to conduct themselves in a finite existence connected to an infinite love is the essence of our journey of discovery. So the Enneagram is very much about understanding how you think from a finite plane, and you lose touch with your infinite essence. And that each personality type has its own gifts and talents to be expressed, and to be able to be expressed without judgment or fear or rejection. And Christ came to tell us, yes, that's not important. You're not judged, you're not rejected, you're loved. So don't be afraid and fully express yourself in love. So that's what the Enneagram's doing. It's saying these are the things that you develop because you're afraid. And when you can shed those skins, you come down to how beautifully you're made and how you're loved by God.
In other words, you can be loved if you're not perfect, 1, and you can be loved if you're not a helper, 2, and you can be loved if you're not an achiever, 3.
And not only that, but you have all those things in you. Every one of those is in you. All those essences, all those different expressions. You have all of them inside you. You lean towards one that you figured out would somehow save you and protect you and guide you, and you built up all your stuff around it, but you actually have all of it in you. Everyone does. And it allows us to really grow, to just take a breath and let go of stuff and just be in love.
That's what I've noticed because I've read through the materials, even though I missed last week.
Yeah.
That's what I noticed, that there are parts of everyone. Everyone has parts of these.
Yes.
And of course, some stronger than others.
Yes, that's the idea, that we have all of the parts in us, but due to who we are, by the way we were created in essence from the time we were born, the families we were in, the environments we were in, we learned to develop ways to, I can't call it any more than a shell around us that we were convinced would keep us safe. And we need to break that shell apart to say, no, you really are safe and you're really beautiful, and just live your life. But live your life really, really for who you are and how you see the world and the gifts you bring. And there isn't a single person who's born in this world that doesn't have beautiful gifts to give. No matter, right?
Right. Well, that's why I believe that people should be told when they do something correctly or something good, because we all have that feeling of accomplishment when people do that to us.
It
Makes us feel that we're worth something, especially when I went through last year. It was nice to have people say you're doing a good job or whatever. It made me feel good enough to go forward. So I'm glad that there's some people out there that recognize that also.
Yeah. And it's important to understand that especially with an achiever who really wants us to admire their success, that when we say you did a good job, that they understand that you're grateful for the good they did, but you know there's more to them than that.
But as people say, sometimes it's only just 2 words, thank you, and that's all you need.
That's it. Well, and then there's
Even just a smile.
Yep. And then there are the other words, the other 2 words that are really great to hear. Well, really 3. I love you. I love you.
I love you.
I love you. You are loved. You are loved. So this is I hope that as we go into tomorrow, into Ash Wednesday, and then into Lent, that maybe you can come into the Enneagram as we're unfolding here and take an even deeper hold of the idea that you can be brave and courageous and look at the spots, the blind spots in yourself, the walls that you've built, and trust that the Holy Spirit wants you to see them and set you free in love so you can experience the freedom of who you are. And that maybe you can also help others be free to be themselves. Wouldn't that be a really great gift to come out of 40 days of Lent with? So just quick before we go, I wanted to double check. Did you all get your books, the books I sent out? Did you get them? The reflection books? Rosemary, did you get yours yet?
No, but it might be the Pony Express hasn't brought it to my post office.
Well,
yet.
when they put yours, when they told me your estimated date of delivery would probably be either tomorrow or Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, it takes a while out here.
Yeah, it does. Did everybody else get theirs? Okay, good. So just to remind you, if any of you are interested, we have an Ash Wednesday service on Zoom tomorrow at 5:00 at night. And we're not going to have our Bible study because it would be like just too much backed up against each other for both those things. So we'll be reflecting in our Ash Wednesday service about our readings. Okay. Anything anybody wants to say before we go tonight? All right, sounds like we're all good. I love you all very much. I just want to give you a quick reminder. I'm going to be sending you the personality 4 much earlier. You're going to be glad for this, but it's crazy. I'm going to Colorado next week. So trying to get everything done and get your mailing out to you, because we're going to have class. It's just that I'm going to be in Colorado with you while we have our class next week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where in Colorado?
I'm going to be in Crested Butte, Colorado with my son.
Oh, are you? That's where my family helped start that, change it from a mining town to a ski resort.
Get out of town, Rosemary.
Yeah, my brother, Kathy, and my brother and sister were there, and they opened my brother opened the first bars and Kathy worked at a ski resort. They have it's a wonderful place.
This is the second year. My son and daughter-in-law went out there because of COVID last year. They have 2 little kids, and they went out there last year to kind of, ski out the COVID season, because my son's a 3.
Yeah, and
He's achieved many things.
I went out there, when it first was like Bisbee, it was changing from a mining town into this resort. So I went out there and I tried to talk Ralph into buying this mountain so I could have Rosie's bar or something. But anyhow,
You would have been a great bartender.
and now it's covered with ski lifts and it's so rich. And I go, we missed out.
We missed that choice. Well, at any rate, I'll let you know how it's turning out there when I get out there.
I have some good stories about that.
Cool. Well, we'll have to talk, Rosemary. We're gonna have to talk.
Okay.
So at any rate, I'm leaving on Sunday, and I will be back next Sunday. So, but we'll have everything. We'll have our yoga, and we'll have everything else that we do all week long. Okay. So
Will we get to see kids?
we just might.
Oh, good.
Might.
They are so cute.
They are very cute. They are very cute. So at any rate, I'm not going to be, I messed up my schedule. So we're going to have morning prayer for the first Sunday in Lent on Zoom, but then everything else will be as is, all the classes, Bible study, everything. And then Sunday service will be fine too, because I'm going to celebrate Eucharist at Crested Butte. So Rosemary, maybe what will happen is I'll be able to celebrate the Eucharist by setting it up so you can see the mountain that you want to buy behind me.
It doesn't matter, just,
I probably am going to set it up that way.
I hope they have the ice cream parlor. They served ice cream in huge brandy glasses. So I hope they get ice cream.
All righty then. All right. Anything else, my loves? Have a good Ash Wednesday. Good night and God bless you all.
All right.
Bye.